Hello, and welcome to another episode of Jimbo's, A Pathetic Podcast. There's no Pat this week. He's out of town, I believe. So we're replacing him with a much better
Pats.
model. 2 Pats for me. 2 Pats for me, 1 Pat for you. Yeah, but we're upgrading, and we're getting the better model. Our good friend, the first repeat guest on the show, is Jimmy Green. What's up, player?
Hey, am I really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you're the first comeback.
But no, that was Kim Kardashian. That was a rip off of a Chris Pratt joke.
That was a classic, though.
Yeah. Hey, buddy, it's good to see you. I didn't know that. I didn't know I was the first repeat.
Yeah, just you. Well, technically, Pat was the first repeat, but he became
true.
the co-host, so it doesn't count.
He bought in.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, Pat's gone this week. Don't know where he is. He's out in the great wide world.
Peppin'.
Just being a boy.
Having a little.
Yep. But yeah, I'm excited to have Jimbo here. As whoever listened to our 8th episode would know, Jimmy here. He's got a podcast called Jimbo's Paradise that we've actually been on. We were also on your 8th episode. I'm pretty sure.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Did we work it out that way?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Sick.
Damn.
But yeah,
Why
we
do
were
I
on
never
it recently.
notice these things?
We were on it recently, and we had a really good time. We played some games, had some laughs, did some goofs. But you know, we're big fans of his podcast, and he's also a radio DJ out in Ardmore, Oklahoma.
That's right.
Yeah.
Out in Oakland, California. 93.4 The Buzzin'. I'm a country radio DJ. I do nights on a country station, and then I'm the morning show for a rock station.
How do you schedule that?
You want me to reveal the truths, the secrets? Yeah, I'll do it. The fact of it is that I am live on that morning show, but the night shows are pre-recorded most of the time.
That makes sense. Is it the late night, like later in the
No,
evening?
it's actually 7 to midnight. But because I'm also the production director there and basically the creative head of the advertising department, I need to be there during normal office hours as well. However, I go home every day around like 2 or 3 or maybe a little earlier than 2 pretty often because I've got really good work ethic. But like when I'm live doing that morning show, I'm often like, I'll be talking on the mic and then the mic's off and then I'm running into the production studio and I'm producing a commercial for a client and or writing a script or doing a million things and prepping for my next break, or if I've got a whole bit coming up, there's all sorts of stuff to do. But so I'm pretty much in like go mode at 5 a.m. every morning, if not earlier.
God, no thank you.
Oh, I hate it. I fucking despise it, honestly. But it's, I don't know. I love doing it. I love doing radio. I don't know why. I just love doing it. Yeah, but it's, so I pre-record, which is, you would not believe how common that is in radio now, and it is the cornerstone of radio existing, and it was why the industry has shrunk as much. It's because of the ability to pre-record and everything. Mm-hmm. But I fucking knock it out of the park every night, baby. So who gives a shit, Yeah. Monday through Saturday, only off air on Sundays, but you still hear my voice on all those beautiful, wonderful commercials. Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's not that like upsetting because even when I was a kid and I was listening to the radio regularly, I would notice when it was recorded. Like, I feel like I could tell when it was pre-recorded. There
are certain sounds and cues that you can kind of zone in on and stuff that will give it away. You'd actually be really surprised how unknowing the public is as to our tricks and our magic and our little demonish ways.
Listen, sometimes you gotta fool the populace. You can't always be straight up.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is that people who have found out from the country station, because the country station's our big station in the building, have found out that I'm not actually there. yet say things to seem like I'm there and
Right.
such. My point to them is that no matter what I'm doing in there is a show. What I'm doing in there is some level of performance.
Right.
And you know me, you know my sense of humor, and you know how much fiction goes into my sense of humor. So I kind of don't really feel bad about it because I'm basically doing the same show I would be doing. There is there's a good amount to be said for being there live in the moment and stuff like that. But you know, I think I'm better served doing it this way. And it gives me a chance to do a completely different kind of show from what I do when I'm sitting there agonizing and being anxious and putting this morning show together every morning.
Yeah.
Because you realize how reliant people become on you.
Yeah.
And it's a weird responsibility that I did not know I would eventually have to bear.
Yeah, I feel like that's just with anything. Like if you're halfway decent, that's one thing I've noticed. Like my job, like was not my original chosen career by any means.
Yeah.
But like because I was able to like understand it pretty quickly and catch on and like be good at what I was doing.
Yeah.
So many people just like they just need me to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like ugh.
I got into this because I wanted my mom to be disappointed.
I mean, did you succeed though?
Yeah, I rent and my brother owns.
So I'm very happy that you're here. Always glad to have you.
Dude, thank you.
Here to chat.
This is, I know I made you get up earlier than usual. This is literally just so I can go pick up my comic book pulls and go hang out with my nephew today.
That's probably two of the best reasons to wake up early.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm gonna see because of the way I sleep, I'm gonna wake up early no matter what. Because I do this 4-hour shift thing. So when I get off work around like 2 every day, I will go home and like do a few things and usually just fall asleep for like 4 hours. Wake up, do whatever until like midnight or 11, and then go back to sleep until I have to get up for work. It's the best sleep. I've always had trouble sleeping my entire life. Best sleep I've ever had. Thank you. Whichever episode of Adam Ruins Everything taught me that.
Nice.
Because dude, I feel different than I'm like as far as like sleep goes than I've ever felt in my life.
See, I need to try that. I've been having like really bad sleep problems lately. I had like really bad insomnia like when I was like 19 or so to the point where I was like staying up for days and like it was just insane. But lately I've been having this issue where like I'll sleep, but I don't feel rested when I wake up.
Yeah, yeah.
And dude, it's just...
That's what was me when I do an 8-hour sleep sesh, little sesh. That I usually don't feel as replenished.
Yeah.
But yeah, because of that, and because of what time I wake up for work, dude, I woke up this morning, I think the first time I looked over at my phone, it was still like 4 or 5 a.m. and I'd gone to sleep at like 1.
Jeez.
Stayed up watching some shit with my dad. And I'm just like, all right, let's go. Because I just have to be in that mode Monday through Friday mornings.
That's an interesting way to do it. I think I'm going to try that.
Give it a shot. You know, the hardest thing when I've talked to people about it that they've talked about like how they would fit in it is just how your life is scheduled and structured. It definitely is easier for me because I get off work in the middle of the afternoon. Because what that affords me is then. Whereas I should go to if I wasn't gonna sleep during the day and just do 8 hours, I'd go to sleep around like 8 p.m.
Right.
Well, then I don't get to talk to my friends. I don't get to game fucking hard with them. You know?
Yeah.
Get to go to that brand new GTA casino.
Get to play Minecraft for 6 hours.
That game scares me. Yeah, so it affords me that because I wake back up, you know, I go to sleep around like 3 or 4, and then I wake back up around like somewhere between 6 and 8, and all my friends are off work and settled at home, and like, you know,
yeah,
time to game, time to hang out, time to talk or whatever, since I do live an hour and a half at minimum from most of my best friends.
Well, fortunately for me, I don't talk to anybody, so I can just sleep whenever I want to.
Good Eric Sigmund move.
Absolutely.
I love that fucking dude.
Same AF.
Can you believe we played well, I didn't play it, but what was it? Pin the sperm on the egg at the baby shower?
Yeah, that was That was interesting. Yeah,
I've never seen that before. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. It surprised me.
I could definitely see why they didn't used to have dudes go to baby showers, because there was a lot of stuff that I was just like, I don't think this is meant for us.
Well, I definitely feel like I brought a disruption to the room.
Absolutely.
I got him a card. These friends of ours, I got him a card, and I wrote in it. It was a nice card, but I wrote, "Y'all parents know y'all been having sex," with a question mark. And
keep in mind, we're like this really nice house.
still mostly female baby shower, but it's like what it was me, you, Pat.
Yeah, the dads, and then me, you, Pat, Juan,
yeah.
And then Guy was with Kim.
Guy, yeah, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
Sorry, Guy. But the rest of it, like, mostly female. And not that females are offended by that phrase, but there were, like, children there and stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely not the...
I apologize.
The proper setting.
I apologize officially here to Cody Dresser, because his daughter was in the room and Cody was not, and he and I are good friends. And that definitely was read out loud in front of his child, and I feel bad because this was also my first time ever meeting that child. Although I didn't even meet her; she was just in the same room. But yeah. I recognized her and his wife, and I felt so bad about it. But I could still see the look on Cody's face if he had been in the room. But anyway, so yeah. I forgot about that whole thing where at baby showers they like go around and actually read the cards out loud. She didn't even read what was printed on the card. She just read that.
Just read the
which
line.
Was so funny. Yeah, I feel like maybe.
See, this is why
bring guys to baby showers. We have fun.
This is why I'm fortunate enough to have a wife, because she definitely wrote whatever.
Yeah, that's
was
right.
on
Yeah,
her card.
he shows up and he's like, "She got this."
It's like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Yeah, see, I want to say that I'm not just constantly irreverent, but I did get them a gift, which was a book, and within the cover of the book, I wrote a very heartfelt note.
Yeah, I mean,
to the baby.
It was definitely a nice gift. It was just you were assuming that it was going to Eric and Chelsea, which. If it was just
I didn't know they were going to read the card out loud. I didn't think of it.
If it was just them reading it, it would have been fine. But yeah, it was an out loud situation. lots of children and family members, and us sitting awkwardly in the corner. But yeah, that was fun.
You know what I'll say? There wasn't enough meat there.
Well, yeah.
It's a vegan family, though.
Yeah, it's.
Wouldn't that have been crazy if they had just had that big vegan spread, and then they just had Arby's meat mountains stacked on?
I would have been in heaven at least.
Yeah, right. With Impossible Burger patties just slipped in between.
How offended do you think some of the people there would have been? Like,
okay. There was one girl who looked like she would have written a letter to a congressman. I don't know who she was, but she literally looked like she would have gone political if I had like walked in with a little bit of like, you know, the liquid cheddar from a beef and cheddar, just like right here in my mustache, and she's just like, no.
Yeah, I definitely caught that vibe from a few folks.
There was one girl that. Who literally the entire time her face didn't change, and I'm pretty sure she was mad she was there.
Oh, I'm sure.
She's mad at babies.
Or mad that we were there.
Maybe a baby like stole from her recently.
It could have been that she was mad that we were there. That's what I always assume, at least.
That's fair.
Anytime that we go anywhere, I'm just like, I'm sure somebody here is angry that we're in this room right now.
I feel that way with waiters. Anytime I sit down at a restaurant, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm inconveniencing you. I'm sorry.
I do. I hate going out to eat, though.
Really?
I genuinely hate the whole experience of like having a waiter come up and serve you, and I fucking hate it. But I also hate social interaction, so that's mainly what it is.
I mean, I live alone and in a city where I don't have many friends who I get to see very often or anything. And so I don't really do that, you know. It's mostly fast food on the couch kind of stuff. But yeah, I've never been one to like go eat at a sit-down restaurant by myself. I used to, dude. When Sushi Y'all in Arlington was in its heyday, and I was going to school at UTA. Ooh, Woo!
Hell yeah.
I'd go there by myself anytime, baby.
I miss sushi so
$9.99
much.
sushi buffet, and every time you say that to someone, they're like, "Ew, that sounds gross." Like, no, it was
so
quality.
Good. So good.
See, that's my constant gripe about sushi. Is they always like, here's one roll and that's $7.99, and there's like what, fucking 8 pieces.
Yeah,
Like, thank you for this little taste. Mm-hmm. Okay, now can I have my meal?
It's not like seafood is fucking expensive either. It's
it's not like the seafood they use in those is expensive.
Exactly.
And it's also the other part. It's just rice.
Right.
They charge you because of the manual labor that goes into it. But it's still not worth that much money.
No,
because I don't get
not.
to, half the time you don't even get to tip those guys directly.
Yeah.
So but I've seen them roll, man. They're good.
Oh yeah. Have you ever like made your own?
No.
It's dope.
No, I can't draw straight lines. I'm not going to try and make sushi.
They have those. They have like those like they look like just like bamboo slats.
Yeah. I've seen those.
To roll them up. So yeah, I love sushi. I'm such a fucking
big sushi head.
Yeah.
That's what they call them.
I'm just a sushi head.
r/sushi head is the subreddit.
Or I could just go to my go-to, which is I'm a fucking weeb. So
Ooh.
I'm a big time weeb.
Dude, at Sushi Y'all went through this transformation of decor that was one of my favorite things about it. When it first opened, it looked like like you were gonna lose an intestine while you were in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like someone needed one and they were gonna get it out of you. And then it went like kind of chromish, and they added these. I may be skipping a stage in there somewhere, but they added TVs which were constantly playing K-pop and J-pop, and then. They also put these like posters up around the walls that had different. It was just like different American movies, but the Japanese version of the poster, and they had like Inception and like one of the Toy Stories. I don't remember which one, and a bunch of other stuff. And then eventually, the TVs went pure CNN.
Yeah.
And the decor got real, like, more professional kind of looking. Mm-hmm. The posters went away, and that was the last stage of it, and then now that one's gone. I think there's, like, one left somewhere.
Yeah, there was one up here in North Richmond Hill.
Yeah, that one's gone, though, right?
Yeah, I think that's gone as well.
What the hell?
It's a damn shame.
Everything gold must fade.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sad.
But yeah, like I hate the whole like I just hate being out in public, man. And it sucks because like for example, I love the experience of going to movies.
Right.
Like I just genuinely enjoy going and sitting down, like no other distractions, you can't really use your phone in a theater or anything like that. Just like sitting down, having really great speakers and enjoying the fucking movie. But like so they built a Alamo over here, which is like a fucking godsend for me because Alamo's real strict on their rules, and they're not. They do that thing where like you you fill out a piece of paper to order the food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But before that, whenever it was like movie tavern or whatever, you still had a fucking waiter who would like come up to you.
Hey, how's it going? Great. There's dialogue right now. Shut the fuck up. Bring me my garbage nachos.
Yeah, definitely Alamo is.
Dude, it's a better experience. They curate everything that happens before the movie, and it's not some like, here's your first look at some bullshit sitcom that's going to be off in 3 episodes. Dude, when I went and saw. I think it was Hellboy, the new Hellboy. Mm-hmm. They did. There's like commercials for like dust devils, like vacuum cleaners and shit, and different things involving devils and demons and hell and stuff. And like there's like an evangelist commercial and shit. And like, dude, it was great. Alamo just does it better. Alamo is for movie lovers.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, if the more common nature of Alamo now fucking dilutes the brand, just because shitty people going there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be made.
There's one probably like, I don't know, 10 minutes away from my house now because they built this one up here in North Richmond Hills, and like I'm hoping that becomes like the theater that gets rarely gone to.
Oh yeah.
Because, dude, the seats were fantastic, and it's fucking Alamo, so I love it. The only thing that I don't like about Alamo is the food, because the food is just ass there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's bad.
I've had food there once or twice now, and I don't remember hating it or anything, but I like mediocre food sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I like
in those situations.
I like bad movie theater food because movie theater food is fucking fantastic.
Right? Yeah. You don't go to Studio Movie Grill for the caviar.
But yeah, I went to the Alamo in Las Colinas one time, and I got like this chicken sandwich, and it was the worst sandwich I've ever eaten in my entire life. It was so bad.
I don't know if I mean, I've definitely had like in theaters with food where I've had like food and I was like, God damn it. But I don't think I've had that experience at an Alamo yet. But nonetheless,
to be fair, normally you go to Alamo, you go to just drink, and you're not really there eating. I'm actually going there.
I can't get loaded during movies. It doesn't work for me.
I like getting one beer. I'll get like a water and one beer, and it's usually like, whatever bullshit craft nonsense they have there, because they have all the tabs and shit like that. So I'll get just one beer and a drink and like a water or whatever else, and then usually if I'm gonna eat, I'll get something like more on the savory, salty side of things. Like I'll get like something with fries or some shit like that. I feel like that's kind of the perfect setup. I like having a nice beer, something salty, and a water. Just enjoy yourself.
I look for the biggest thing on the menu.
Well, that's usually a good go-to as well. But yeah, I'm actually going to see it when it comes out.
When is that coming out? Is that next month?
September 5th is the day.
Oh, damn, it's that close.
Yeah.
I don't know why, despite my love for movies and everything, there is not a movie in this world that I know its release date until I'm like a week or 2 weeks out, at best.
Yeah, usually I don't really know. The only reason I know about it is because I'm such a fucking dork for Stephen King. But also I had made plans with somebody a long, long time ago. So I went with a friend to go see the first one, and we made plans that whenever the second one comes out, we're gonna go to the second one together. So Jesus. So
oh wow, there's a real hot spot right here.
There's a hot spot over here. So yeah, we made the plan that we were gonna go see the second one together. So we kept up with it to make sure that we actually went and saw it. And I think technically we're going to like the midnight release for it. But have you noticed that the midnight releases are like earlier now?
It's like 6 p.m.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Because the showing we're going to is at 8, but they have like a 5:50 that night too.
I think it's a good thing. I think the Thursday midnight releases, while I understand the aesthetic around it and everything, I hate that shit, dude.
Yeah.
I fucking hate that shit. I don't want to go to a movie that late. It's fucking 6 p.m. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of midnight. I have seen movies at midnight. Like I've seen a few of the Marvel movies on pre-release.
Yeah.
And I've seen those at midnight, but that wasn't because of a special. That's just when it timed out. The clearest movie I can remember seeing at a midnight release was with Cody Dresser, and we went and saw The Last Airbender, which we were so amped about. We were so stoked. Hadn't seen a review. We were fucking okay. So and I think Cody had found like temp tattoos or something. And we had done like the arrows.
The arrows.
And I want to say he might have done the forehead, but maybe I'm just crazy. But what was that?
I have no idea. Oh, it was a doorbell.
Oh.
Somebody's here.
Who is it? It's Pat.
No.
Pat just burst through the door like the Kool-Aid Man. What were we talking about?
You were telling a story about going to see The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, and we were so amped about that. Like he's got a tattoo on one of his legs that's of, I think, that version of Aang. I can't remember now. Man, Cody, I'm so sorry. And we went into that movie. We're sitting in line with a bunch of fucking tweens. and we are both in our 20s, and we were amped as fuck, and we went in, and that movie was garbage. Would have been funnier if I was just like, we went in, that movie was so good.
That was one of those that I was really happy that I waited for reviews, because I love Avatar,
Dude,
the show.
Huge Atla fan right here.
It's so good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that movie was special.
I'm not going to name names, but someone on Twitter constantly runs his mouth about Korra being better than Avatar The Last Airbender, and how Korra could fucking trounce Aang, and he's a friend, and the person saying this, but he might not be in the future if he fucking...
Hey, person on Twitter, you're fucking wrong, so just,
Yeah.
Take that for what it is. You're fucking wrong.
Throw a palooza about that, motherfucker. Damn, I'm getting hype.
God, yeah. So, I mean, that's that. So we're talking about movies. That kind of segues into one of the things that kind of cemented the friendship between Jimmy and I, and one of the things that's always connected us is our shared enjoyment of movies.
I was gonna say alopecia.
Well, that
That's not true.
But yeah. So we both are big movie dorks, fans, buffs, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And specifically horror movies. And so, like, Jimmy introduced me to a lot of horror movies, like, obviously, because he's the king of going to conventions and researching, like, crazy shit that I would have never known to look up about horror movies. But,
I don't know about king. I appreciate that. Maybe a prince.
You're
maybe
right,
a duke. Maybe I have a small territory.
High-ranking military officer, maybe, or something like that.
I'm a cadet. I just joined.
But yeah, so, like, for me at least, so my love for horror is, like, actually a really weird story. And I don't know if you have something similar, but for me, like, the way that I caught on to horror movies was, you remember KDFI, the channel?
When you said Katie, I thought of your sister. KDFI.
KDFI.
Yes.
So it was like the channel that would play Rangers games all the time.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
Ago.
Okay, yeah.
So every year around the Halloween time, they would play horror movies and, like, slasher movies, just like generic slasher, what everybody...
Are you talking about, like, Jason, or are you talking about, like, oops, somebody grabbed the wrong thing off the shelf at Hollywood Video?
I mean, yes.
That one?
Like,
okay.
Well, all of it, really.
Oh, okay.
All of it, yeah, because... it would. I mean, the movies range from, like, I think I saw, like, Leprechaun Back to the Hood on there one year, which is a fucking classic. I've seen a wide range of wonderful movies on there, but I have a clear memory of, I have this tiny ass TV in my room when I was a kid, and I turned on KDFI, and Dream Warriors, the Nightmare on Elm Street movie, was playing. And you would assume that, I was like 5 or 6, and you would assume that a 5 or 6 year old would get scared or, like, want to turn it off or whatever, but I was just so fucking about it.
You were just a huge Dawkins fan.
I don't know why I caught onto it so well, but then that turned into me watching every horror movie that would come on KDFI that whole time, because it's like, they don't do it the whole month, but they do it for the majority of October. So yeah, I watched such crap slasher movies. Like, I'm sure they played Troll 2 on there at some point or something like that. But that's how I, like, caught onto it. And ever since then, I'd always just had, like, a really big fascination with just, like, slasher movies. And then it kind of morphed into loving regular horror movies. Because initially it was slasher movies. I started a collection of, like, I tried to collect the Friday the 13th movies and stuff like that when I was a kid. And then it transitioned more into, like, genuine horror movies and stuff. And then once we started being friends and started doing beer movie night, you started introducing me more into what I would end up liking more now, which is, like, some of my favorite, like, subgenres of horror, like, We talked on your podcast about like Japanese gore horror, which I fucking love.
Yeah.
So like stuff like that, and like even like the artsy fartsy '70s shit, and like the era of exploitation films, I really fucking love. So yeah, that's my weird story of how I love fucking horror movies. But I'm interested
and
to hear.
Dawkins, don't forget Dawkins.
But I'm interested to hear if you have do you have like a specific memory that sticks out to you of like loving movies early on?
It involves broadcast television as well.
Nice.
So I'll start by saying this. My dad's a big film person, took film courses in college, and has always been and not like a real student of film, but a student of film.
Yeah.
Has always been a cinephile. And so there was, at birth, there was a love for movies to be instilled in me. But as far as I grew up in the I was born in '89, so I grew up in the VHS era and the heyday of the Disney Renaissance and stuff like that. So watching movies was like a constant thing. But so the general love for movies and love for film I didn't really recognize until I was more of a teenager, I guess. But horror was a different thing. I think I was 7 or 8 years old. My family was kind of Christian. And so even through my teenage years, I was not supposed to have certain kinds of music and see certain kind of movies and shit like that.
Harry Potter.
Turned out great, baby. And now I've seen worse movies than most people.
You've shown me worse movies.
That's what happens. It's a rubber band. You pull it back too far, it fucking flings, baby. But I, as a kid, I was really, and by a young age, I was really into Scooby-Doo and shit. And my parents both loved horror to a certain extent. My dad, Zazu, loves it. He loves horror movies. My mom always liked them, but the one thing that I always it always snaps me to influence from horror. She was a huge Stephen King fan, and we had all these first editions when I was growing up of Stephen King books and stuff, and she was huge into them. They still are. They get each other Stephen King books as gifts all the time, they don't fucking know they're coming out. But the clear memory I have is I was 8 years old, and it was Halloween, and we were just doing whatever around the house. I think trick-or-treating was already over for the night, and I was flipping around on TV. I think what I was looking for was I was trying to find Treehouse of Horrors.
Oh, yeah.
Simpsons. And what I did find was this old black and white movie on PBS, being shown on PBS, and it was Night of the Living Dead.
And classic.
I asked my dad, I was like, hey, can I watch this? And I don't remember how, but I ended up in their bedroom watching it, because there were only 2 TVs in the house.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is accurate, but I think it was because he was trying to not let my mom notice what I was watching, but while at the same time, oh yeah, he's watching PBS.
Yeah.
Well, they showed an unedited version of Night of the Living Dead on PBS, which included the nudity and the gore, which, if you've never seen the original, it is actually kind of substantial, especially for its time. But still, even by today's standards, you'd still have to give it at least a, because of the nudity, I guess, an R rating.
Keep it R.
Dude, I had no idea what I was seeing. It was just so mind-boggling to me. And, of course, this is pre-zombie era in popular culture. And I kind of fell in love with zombies, and I was like, this is really interesting. But at that age, and because of how my parents were, I couldn't find more zombie movies, because the entirety of zombie filmdom up to that point had been nothing that you would ever let a kid get hands on.
Right.
And there's all sorts of people who are horror fans, and they talk about, oh yeah, we get these copies of these VHS tapes and fuck. I never had that experience. I never had that experience of having music, hardcore albums, and thumbing through the liner notes to find out what bands. I was getting burned copies just so I could hide them in my fucking house, So it was that level of you're not supposed to, whatever.
Right.
Who gives a shit? By age 5, I was a gigantic Green Day fan. It was the weirdest thing. But they were like, no, listen to DC Talk. You know what I'll point out? Green Day has no songs where they say the N-word, but DC Talk has one.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Dead serious.
I feel like
They sang it on the Arsenio Hall show, too. You can look it up on YouTube.
I mean...
Just look up DC Talk 2 Honks. I'm not going to say the rest of the title.
Okay.
Because I'm not racist like fucking DC Talk is.
That's fucking weird.
It's not the hard R, but it's an N-word.
Well, I mean, because like I thought only Toby Mac was the only white guy in.
No, there's 2 white guys, 1 black guy.
Oh, okay. I thought for some reason.
So
I thought
2
it was
honks.
the other way.
And yeah, just look up DC Talk 2 honks. So it's great. But
Wow.
anyway, so I didn't have access to more zombie films, but I'd kind of take it where I could. With my parents liking Stephen King movies, or Stephen King in general, during the 90s, they would. You remember that ABC would do miniseries and stuff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Storm of the Century, Salem's Lot.
The Stand.
They redid The Shining.
It was a miniseries.
Yeah, it was a miniseries. Yeah,
Yeah.
true. I forgot about that. Yeah, I always forget that was. I don't know how I forget. It's fucking long.
Yeah.
But so I'd see that kind of stuff. They let me watch that. And here's another momentous moment. So probably, man, I could look up what year it came out. But Rose Red. Do you remember Rose Red?
Yeah, Rose Red came out in like 2002, I believe.
That sounds exactly right.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing.
I believe it's 2002.
My copy is signed by Julian Sands, the British guy, the skinny British guy.
That's dope.
I met him at Texas Primary Weekend. But so we, over a series of nights, the family watched Rose Red together. And every single night I slept in my parents' room. And to this day, that movie fucking terrifies me. I have a recurring nightmare from that movie. But I fucking loved it.
The greenhouse fucked you up?
No. The scene where he's laying in bed and he turns over and the thing's in the bed.
Yeah.
Fucks me up. I had trouble.
That's a good scare.
I had trouble transitioning from a twin size bed to a larger bed because of that.
Really?
When I was, yeah.
I'm trying to remember if I had any good like things that I was genuinely like frightened by. Because that was one thing that, like, jump scares obviously, give me the quick little jump.
Yeah.
But like I've never been the type to be like genuinely scared of media or even like and this is probably a bad thing, but like even just being out in the middle of the street by myself, people get fucking anxious and nervous and shit. I don't. I've never been like that. I think the only time that I ever got really scared by anything, it was because I had stayed up till like 3 or 4 in the morning and I was 8, and we were watching the Indiana Jones trilogy.
Scary shit, dude.
The Temple of Doom with the fucking heart ripping out and shit.
You know what bothers me?
What?
In fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark, if you take Indiana Jones out of the movie still happens the exact same way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All he did was delay them. That's all he fucking did. They were still going to open it and kill themselves.
Which, I feel like that's kind of how it went for...
Indy just helped them find it faster in some regards.
Well, even in Temple of Doom, all he fucking does is cut the rope bridge.
Yeah. I love, don't get me wrong, I fucking love Crystal Skull. Like, I love Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I fuck heavily with Crystal Skull. I watch it pretty often.
Is that true, or are you fucking with me?
Oh, no, I'm dead serious. I don't understand why people hate that movie. But that's dude, we do not have to get into that conversation.
That is...
it's fucking Indiana Jones.
Story.
They're based on pulp movies. They're supposed to be... They just doubled down on the cheesiness, that's all.
I think it was just the wrong time for...
Oh, yeah, it was a horrible time for an Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
And the way the reboots and the reboot structure is working now, where they understand how a reboot's really kind of supposed to work, now would be better. Of course, they're kind of doing that, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, so...
But yeah, so... Rose Red.
Oh yeah, so
oddly
yeah,
enough,
that was another one. Yeah, it just fucked me up. But it was just kind of like, it was piecemeal from there on. It was like getting what I could, seeing what I could on TV. Eventually, I figured out what the cable password was.
Nice.
So I would sneak down at night after my parents had gone to bed, and I'd fucking run through the movie channels, and I'd look for horror movies, and in that way, I saw a lot of like very odd movies early on. That most of which I would never even fucking buy, and I own like 800 goddamn movies now. Mm-hmm. But like, it was grabbing stuff here and there, watching TNT or TBS edits of
13 Ghosts.
Yeah, exactly. Grabbing it where I could, and then basically I hit fucking 18 years old, moved to Austin, and met the bassist in the band I was in down there. And he was a horror collector, and it was just like ding, like holy shit! Oh wait, you can collect these. Like that hadn't even fucking occurred to me yet, and And so I started. It just started like right then. I was just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna start buying horror movies, and soon I had amassed a small collection, and soon I was spending way too much money, and eventually now I have a second bedroom in my house just for this shit.
Which, that's perfect. That's that's exactly what you should have.
I got a fucking app. Can it see that? Look at. Shut up, group chat. I got an app. I scan the barcodes on my movies, and it makes a library.
That's dope.
It's fucking sick. It doesn't work for VHS. It's only Blu-rays and DVDs. So all my VHS are uncatalogued. But I have a good idea what I got.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, your collection is significantly more impressive than any collection I've physically witnessed. So.
Thank you. I've always, even ever since I got into collecting, I never wanted to collect for quantity. I always wanted to collect because they were movies I actually really wanted to own, you know?
Yeah.
And despite that, there are some movies that were definite impulse buys in there that I either ended up liking or ended up getting fucking rid of. I'm in collector groups and stuff on Facebook. There's people who I'm just guffawed that it's just like, why, dude, like go make a friend or fucking something. Like, yeah, I mean, it's
their whole life is just.
Oh, there's people who they just collect horror movies in general. Like if it exists and it is on physical media, they buy it. And I'm just like, where's the fun in that? And they talk about not watching them all because the amount of horror movies that comes out in a given week now. How are you going to watch that in a given week if you have a job?
Right.
You know? So they have these giant watch stacks of stuff that they never work through. And it's just like, well, you're just spending money pointlessly at this, you know? And I've always got a watch stack. I've always got, I think I've got maybe 10 or 15 things in mine.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like multi-packs and weird things in there that it's just kind of I gotta schedule things. Also, I got a copy of fucking Waterworld. It's got 3 different cuts of the movie.
Oh my god.
One's called the Ulysses cut, and I fuck with that.
Okay, that needs to be an episode of Jimbo's. Is you watching the 3 different versions and commenting on the 3 different versions of Waterworld?
I think that would be somewhere around, let's see, probably be about like 9-10 hours to watch all 3.
Yeah, probably.
God. How's that less than Lord of the Rings?
Listen, extended versions for life.
Hell yeah, baby. I haven't watched the extendeds of the Hobbit movies yet. I doubt it actually improves them all that much. But
I mean, I'm sure the singing just lasts for another 30 minutes.
Tolkien's was a huge thing. My dad started one of the very first Tolkien societies in the U.S. back in like '69 or something.
Really?
Yeah. And so my bedtime stories growing up weren't like, The Littlest Choo Choo and Maurice Sendak and shit like that. It was fucking Tolkien. I think we were into the Silmarillion by the time I was fucking 9 years old.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was pretty young when I read the Lord of the Rings books because my parents had this weird rule when I was growing up that I couldn't go see a movie if I hadn't read the book first. Mm-hmm. So like with Harry Potter was big whenever we were growing up, and Lord of the Rings and all that type of shit. I'd have to read the book first, and then I can go see the movie.
Yeah.
And that's actually, my dad was like a huge Stephen King buff too, so that makes sense now why we both like horror so much. And I remember just like, even like I never had to read stuff of Stephen King's first, but I remember like I had this weird period of like really enjoying reading and like sitting down and actually reading stuff. Mm-hmm. And I remember like giving myself that rule after a while of like something would come out that was Stephen King, or something would exist that would be a Stephen King thing, and I know my dad would have the book. Yeah. So I'd go and I'd read the book before I'd let myself watch the movie. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I got a lot of education out of that.
My parents were really strict, so I wasn't allowed to learn how to read.
I never learned how to read.
Reading's become a thing with me. Like I felt like I didn't read for like 10 years. And then I started reading more seriously. I started reading comic books again recently. And that's where I'm going after this, to pick up like 4 or 5 weeks of
What store do you go to around here?
Collected in Keller.
I don't think I've ever been there.
It's over off one of those B streets. Maybe it's Beach. Maybe it's Bauhaus. Maybe it's Bow Wow Street. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't ever remember. I can drive there, but I don't remember the streets.
That's interesting.
But Collected in Keller. Shouts out. Great place.
I just remember always going to fucking Lone Star in Arlington.
Dude,
like,
that's my dad was friends with Buddy, who started Lone Star.
Really?
And yeah, so we went to Lone Star once a week when I was a kid, when I was little.
Yeah, I was heavily like getting into comics and like starting to buy comics around the time that Blackest Night. Do you remember the Blackest Night run?
Yeah.
When that first started coming out, is when I first really started actually going to comic book stores and actually purchasing physical copies of comic books. And
Yeah.
I love that experience.
Oh, dude, it's nice. I fucking the collected just made me. They dragged me kicking and screaming into a pull list because just as much as I love collecting horror movies and what made collecting horror movies fun for me was the ability to walk into a store and go through every horror movie they had and find something, a little gem. You know, I have stuff in my collection that at game time was $20 and now is like a rare, hard to find item.
Yeah.
And I got it by just walking into fucking the Fry's off I-20 between classes at UTA and just
Hell yeah.
Dude, finding the most incredible stuff. That's where all those Japanese gore movies come from. Almost every single Japanese gore movie I have came from that Fry's.
Interesting.
My original copy of Cannibal Holocaust, I believe, came from there as well.
That's nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, their movie.
Expect that out of that Fry's.
Oh, dude, the horror section at that Fry's back in the day was one of the most insane. Like it was a drain on my wallet. It was insane. Now it's nothing. There's barely anything. I mean, I will say, they still do carry boutique label stuff like Arrow Video and like Scream Factory and shit like that.
Yeah.
But it's not what it used to be, where you could find stuff from like Kino Lorber and like, I'm trying to think of some other like smaller imprints that they used to carry. Stuff like Dark Sky and other imprints like that, but yeah, Fry's was wow.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I would have never expected that out of Fry's.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's cool. So,
I don't remember why I said that.
Well, let me ask you this. So, one of the things that I think, one of the things that kind of does it for me in horror is. When I watch a movie, I have this like weird thought in my head all the time that if the cinematography doesn't make sense with the script, because I've noticed that in a lot of movies where like I'll watch it and like I feel like where the script is wanting to go and what the cinematography is doing does not connect well with each other, and I feel like horror has, especially horror done right, has this really good way of like making the shots count and like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like actually making the cinematography and the effects and everything work with the story and not just like have it be kind of a garnish at the end of the fucking plate or whatever.
It's the reason that people gravitate towards a lot of, there's this retro, whatever the fuck that means, thing with like It Follows and movies like The Void and stuff like that. What people weren't recognizing in that, I feel like, is that a lot of what made those movies really good is the cinematography as well.
Right.
But if you go and watch a movie like, what was the Annabelle Creation?
The most recent one was Annabelle Comes Home.
Okay, so then Creation. So the first Annabelle movie was garbage.
Yeah.
And I know I watched it. I don't remember it at all. The second one I just watched recently because Zazu watched it and he was like, "Hey, this movie's kind of better than you'd expect." And I'd seen a bunch of reviews saying that same thing, that it was actually like a lot better than the first one.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize what little that actually meant, but at the same time, I noticed something about that movie. It was very flatline as far as cinematography goes. It's all very kind of claustrophobically shot within a house, but at the same time, most of the shots were pretty stereotypical kind of shit. And cinematography is such a it's so important. It's like general production tone with music.
Yeah.
You can have some shitty lo-fi punk record or you can have some super high produced fucking gent record or whatever the fuck. And but if it doesn't fit with the fucking music, if it doesn't fit your vibe and stuff, and isn't what your audience is kind of looking for,
right?
Then it doesn't fucking work. But
sound design is like that too in horror as well. Horror, I think, has some of the best sound design.
Oh, yeah.
Also, the example that I always give for like a good combination of like sound design
and then cinematography and how it fits in with the story is you've seen The Witch, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The Vivitch.
The Vig.
So when I first watched that, the thing that I caught on was, and spoilers if you've never seen a fucking movie that came out like 4 or 5 years ago, but you know, there's the whole subplot with the goat, where like the goat is the devil or whatever, and there's like one shot early on, and it's kind of like before you know that the goat is actually like sketchy. And it's just a close-up of the goat's face, but with the sound design and how they shot the shot, because it's not like what you would think of a stereotypical close-up where it's like really, really up there.
Yeah.
It's like just far back enough to where it's like unsettling when you look at it, and the sound design with it is just like, you know, your standard like horror, like screechy sounding soundtrack with it. But for some reason, in that spot in the story and where the story goes afterwards, I feel like that's such a good example of how horror can kind of encapsulate everything in like one moment, just that.
Yeah, that movie definitely has some fucking horror ASMR moments. That, when he's talking at the end, what was Black Phillip?
Yeah.
That dude, I remember sitting, I watched that movie in a theater in Sherman, Texas, because it was not being shown in where I live.
Yeah.
And so I drove an hour to go fucking see it. And so I could have driven to Denton, right? Easy enough to see that movie in Denton. I drove to Sherman because I figured no one would be in the fucking theater. Because it's Sherman, fucking Texas, and it was a movie about Satan and the witch and shit. Yeah. And also was not, you know, a slasher film or anything. People were talking about like a slow pace, so I figured no one would fucking be there at Sherman, Texas. Oh, fucking right. I watched that movie dead center of the movie theater completely by myself. I have pictures on Instagram from it. Oh, dude, it was perfect. But so that sound was not bouncing off anything else in the theater, off other bodies, so it was all just kind of coming dead center to me.
That's awesome.
And dude, yeah, it was such a cool experience to watch that movie that way. Hereditary does a lot of good sound stuff too.
Was The Witch Ari Aster also? I feel like there's some connection between The Witch and Hereditary, and I can't remember what it is.
No, The Witch is the same guy who's doing The Lighthouse, which is what coming out with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. Dude, that movie looks nuts. It's like two guys who maintain a lighthouse. It's black and white, and it takes place probably mid to early 1900s. And it's about them like kind of like losing their minds and stuff. There seems to be something Cthulhuan about it. You see tentacles in the trailer. God, but yeah, it's
fucking love Cthulhu nowadays.
Dude, that dude Lovecraft is such an interesting thing. There's so many people who are trying to stop people from using Lovecraft as an influence because he was so racist.
Yeah.
And I think that's stupid at this point because of how ingrained he is in pop culture and everything. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have that conversation. It shouldn't be something that is brought up. I mean, the dude's cat's name was insane. But, I mean, really.
Yeah.
But you can't. It's one of those things. It's like, well, what if you just removed the Beatles from history because they bopped
well, you can make the argument for Star Wars because a lot of the cinematography in Star Wars is kind of influenced by Triumph of the Will.
Yeah, exactly. So. I mean, it's always going to be there kind of thing, but I think that does need to be recognized and everything. But yeah, people, it's this whole dude. I was just talking about this on my podcast last episode about existential horror.
Yeah,
it's that we as a society and consuming horror media have gotten so used to the stock and slash, the it's just around the corner kind of shit, and this just moved and this just slammed and this made a noise, that I think that audiences are starting to gravitate more towards existential horror, that I can't see it, I can't grasp it, I can't understand it. Because if it's a guy in a mask, no matter what the backstory is, this is why Rob Zombie's a fucking idiot, no matter what the backstory is, it doesn't change that it's a fucking guy in a mask.
Right.
you give too much backstory to a slasher and you destroy the slasher. Some movies understand that and work with that. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon is a really great example. It's a mockumentary of the rise of a slasher, and it understands that concept. But so you have movies like Midsummer and Annihilation and Hereditary, and they have this kind of you can't grasp it, or it's something never seen, or when you do see whatever it is, it doesn't make sense. It's not a guy in a mask. It's not a creature even, right. And that existential dread all comes from Lovecraftian writing.
Yeah.
This whole, holy fuck, it's so scary you'd never understand it. I can't even describe it.
I was going to say, when I was listening to that episode, and you guys were talking specifically about Hereditary, one of the things that I was going to say is it does the whole existential dread thing, but it still explains everything.
Yeah.
Which I thought...
Hereditary is a very Lovecraftian film, too.
Right. It's really interesting how they were able to kind of do that to where, like, they genuinely explain every aspect of it. Like, there's no confusion on what was going on at the end of the film by any means. But at the same time, you really feel like you don't understand it. Which is so weird. Because, like, when I left that movie, I was like, I 1,000% understand what they were doing. I get it 100%. But at the same time, do I really?
Yeah.
Do I really understand? And I think, even just the narrative of that film in general I think that was, like, the goal. And I think they hit it well, was that you're just really just not supposed to understand, but you are understanding what's going on.
Yeah. Another good example, and I feel like I've been having this conversation constantly lately, but is Chernobyl, the HBO miniseries.
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about that as well.
Yeah, and it does it too, because what the villain in that story is. It's radiation. How do you visually represent radiation without making the whole thing hokey? Well, you don't. You just visualize the effects.
Yeah.
And of what it's doing. And so through the employment of specific types of choreography and sound design, there was a creature on screen during all of those radiation scenes.
Right.
You didn't see it, but it was there, and you could feel the dread of the moment. And it was, dude, that's... I couldn't believe I sat through an entire miniseries about a real life thing and was not watching a horror series.
Right. Yeah, there's a sequence in Chernobyl pretty early on. It's so one of the characters that they follow in Chernobyl is this firefighter and his wife. And there's a sequence where...
I'm about to talk about something else now.
There's a sequence where like the whole thing first happens or whatever, and the firefighters go out to the plant to, like, start, trying to fight the fire. And, like, so the sequence is kind of, it's not a one shot, but it's almost like a one shot.
Yeah.
And he's walking up.
I know what you mean by that.
Yeah, he's, like, walking up and he's getting the hose and, like, getting everything ready. And it kind of stops on one guy and he picks up a rock, which turns out to be highly irradiated
graphite. It's a chunk of the reactor or something.
Yeah, it's the graphite core of the reactor. And so he picks it up and he looks at it and he puts it back down, and then they go on and start, keep, like, putting out the fire or whatever. And then later on, once again, it's focusing on this one firefighter who's not the one who picked up the graphite, but, like,
it's like his perspective, though.
In the background of the shot is the guy on the ground being, like, screaming,
reacting to his hand.
Yeah, because his hand's fucking burning off.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such a good way that they did it, because, like, it's not, like, focused on that guy. It's focused on the guy who's, like, experiencing that. Like, it's like if you were there and it's like that feeling that you get when you're, if you've ever been somewhere where, like, somebody gets hurt or like been in, like, watched a car accident up close or something like that. It's like you get that, like, you can't do anything about
bystander feeling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I thought that was just phenomenal. They played out that sequence. It was a really good way. And of course, there's many other sequences that are similar to that throughout that whole miniseries.
Yeah, it really is incredible. If you haven't seen it, you gotta watch it. It's so good. That firefighter, the actor who plays that firefighter, and a couple other people, the main scientist in that, the good guy, basically, him and that firefighter went on to do The Terror for AMC, the series, which just started its second season, which is completely unrelated to the first season. The second season's about the Japanese-American internment camps.
Oh, shit.
It's based on real life. But that's how the series is. The first one was based on the story of these, it was The Terror and the something else. It started with with an E. But anyway, they went on an Arctic mission to find passage from England to India or some shit. And so it's the basic story is that happening, but they don't know what officially happened because they've only in recent years, I think, uncovered both boats up there. And started to figure out what exactly happened. So it's kind of a fictionalization of that with what they know would have happened, but it also adds a supernatural element into it. But so they both end up playing very key roles in the show. Across from each other, and there's a couple other people who were involved in Chernobyl, I think, on The Terror, and I think that's because Chernobyl was produced by Ridley Scott, and he also produced The Terror.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Oh, dude, it was. I have so much trouble getting into TV series that I'm not already into, and I picked up Terror one episode in. I was like, holy shit, I love this. It's historic horror, and it's really cool. I have not started this new season yet, but I think it just premiered this last week. So I've been wrapping up on Legion and Preacher, or catching up on Preacher.
Nice.
But. Yeah, The Terror is another one, and it also has an existential dread to it because while there is this supernatural element, they're also dealing with natural human elements of like starvation and stuff like that. And dude, it was very powerful. It was very good.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to watch that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. I definitely enjoyed it. You're one of my favorite people to talk movies to.
Dude, I'm one of my favorite people to talk to about movies too. I do it a lot, and by myself at home. I'll stop watching and wrap a movie on Netflix. You know what? That Keanu Reeves did a great job. You know what he did?
But yeah, thanks again for coming out. Do you want to go ahead and plug everything? Hit me with the Twitter, dog.
Live on camera.
If you're okay with it.
I guess. Not that kind of plug. Yeah, I do a podcast called Jimbo's Paradise. It is on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts predominantly. And I, in recent weeks, have found out that I am on a bunch of other services I didn't know I'm on.
Same.
Yeah.
Actually.
I did not know that. So check me out in the iHeartRadio network. I did not know I was part of that, despite working for a different radio company, but here you go.
Who knows?
I guess they automatically upload my shit too. But yeah, you can check them out on that. Somebody asked me an interesting question the other night. They said, or last night actually, or no, Thursday night. They said, do I have a preferred platform where I want people to listen, if that matters to them?
Yeah, I've gotten that question before as well.
Spotify is actually where I'd prefer. Spotify's kind of doubling down on the whole podcast thing. And
yeah.
Apple, I see my numbers. Apple is my least listened to platform for it.
Same.
It does not agree as much with the formatting and stuff, and it's just I don't like using it as much. But yeah, Spotify, Jimbo's Paradise with an apostrophe, JIMBO,
and Jimbo was his name.
Apostrophe S. Jimbo.
Also, he's at Jimmy Green Radio on Twitter.
I am, and on Instagram. Follow me on both. Different content. Announcements are always the same, but I generally feature different content.
Interesting.
Someone called me a content creator the other day, and I fucking wanted it off myself.
That's you, dog. You're
I don't think
creator.
I am. I don't think I'm anything in regards to that, but different content at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just trying to entertain people in my special way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks again to the Jimmy Green for coming out and being my substitute
Jimmy Green.
You can follow us on Twitter at Podpathetic. We have all the similar platforms, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. We're all over the place. You can also watch the video version on YouTube. Sometimes we do some goofy edits and stuff like that, so you can watch that there. And we'll be back next week with another beautiful episode.
Follow Unscented Gladbag.
Yes, follow Scented Glad Bag 99.
Or, wait, is it unscented or is it scented?
It's scented.
What does it smell like?
At Scented Glad Bag. It smells like a
Bag.
Pine Sol. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.